again, welcome back to the Roger Hudson Guitar Method. We're on page 60, lesson 12, the key of B minor. B minor is the relative minor key of D, 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Here's the natural minor form in first position. Just like you can also play the B minor scale in second position with no open strings. You'll start with your first finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret. Here's scale in B minor, natural minor form, second position. Now keep in mind when you play a chord or a scale that has no open strings, that chord or scale is movable, meaning you can shift the entire pattern to a different location on the fingerboard and you'll have a different key. So for example, if we play that same B minor scale, this one here, no open strings, we move the whole scale. If we move the whole scale up 1 fret, now we have a C minor scale, and it can go all the way up and down the fingerboard as long as you don't put any open strings in there. So that is a handy bit of information to know because that's going to show up later. Keep in mind that when we played our D major, the D major is the same pattern as this B minor is, but the D major starts on the D, the 4th finger, 5th string note. So if we move that entire scale up 1 fret, we'll be in E flat major or D sharp major. Okay, at the bottom of page 60, we have a B minor scale harmonic minor form. The scale in B minor harmonic minor form can be played in first position. You'll have an A sharp in this scale, which will also be here at the 3rd string, so you can stay in first position for this scale. On page 61, we have a B minor scale study. This scale study can be played in second position. In the middle of page 61, we're now going to start barring 4, 5, and 6 strings. Read with me here at the middle of page 61. As you begin to play in keys containing more and more accidentals, barring strings becomes more common. Here are some basic tips for playing bar chords. Number 1, keep your first finger, the barring finger, as flat as possible, close to the fret, but not directly on it. Number 2, make sure the guitar neck is in a good playing position, about 30 to 45 degrees from the floor. Some guitarists play with their neck at an even more obtuse angle. Sort of a personal preference. I like mine at about a 45-degree angle. Keep the left arm as relaxed as possible with the elbow down close to your body. Try not to do this, what some people call the wounded duck syndrome. Try not to wing your left arm out like this. Keep your arm relaxed. Keep the left thumb in the center of the back of the guitar neck without digging into it. You don't want to do this. Keep it like this. The pad of your thumb should touch the back of the neck. Contact with the neck should be with the pad of the left-hand thumb, not with the tip. What you want to do when you're playing a bar is sort of be able to use gravity to help you with leverage. And gravity will help you in that if you hold the bar like this and you relax your arm is heavy because gravity is pulling on it. If you tense your arm up, then you're not using any gravitational force, you're fighting the gravitational force. So if you relax your arm is heavy and it will push down on this bar right here. It'll help you to push down. It gives you leverage. So try to avoid squeezing. You'll wear your finger out, your hand out. A good bar has to do with placement on the strings. Flatten your finger here. Don't play with the finger bent like this. Also, you might need to drop the elbow a little bit to play your bar more effectively and cleaner. When you're playing a block chord that has 5 strings and you only have 4 fingers, what your thumb P will need to do is drag so you'll hit the other bass note. At the bottom of page 61, we have a prelude which uses these chords that we just practiced. This is 9/8 time. There are 3 beats in the measure. Each beat is divided into 3 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right? Continuing lesson 12, on page 62 we have a famous study by Fernando Sor, study in B minor. The main thing to keep in mind with this piece is that there's a melody that is embedded in the arpeggio. So here's the melody by itself. If you look at the notes with the stems up, they're the melody notes. That's the main melody. So when you play the piece, you'll have the bass note, and you'll have the melody. Some players use a rest stroke to bring the melody out. Sort of do both. use the rest stroke occasionally, and just to bring the melody out maybe a little bit more, but mostly I play free stroke. And I also use the right hand pattern of PIM. My M finger is, I usually say M for melody in this piece, meaning that my M finger is going to play the melody notes. Some people might want to play it AMI. To me that's a little confusing, so I just go ahead and play PIM. It mostly stays in the second position. The entire piece mostly stays in the second position. On the second page, well, at the bottom of the first page, you'll actually on the third, it's mostly in second position, but at the third line you'll shift to a third position G chord here. Then it goes back to second position, so it stays mostly in second position. The second page, page 63, you will be shifting here. So there's a closing section where you have it's starting at the closing section starts at the end of the fourth line, the last measure of the fourth line. Then you have these series of chords. Make sure you watch that open second string there. So that closing section, basically the last two lines here, the last 8 measures of the piece, you'll need to memorize those chord shapes so that you can easily go to those chords when it's time to go to them, because that's a little bit tricky because it's sort of outside of what typically the shapes that you're playing are in this piece. There are also a couple of little transitional sections. The full bar right there. Okay. Here's Study in B minor. On page 64, we have a mysterious little piece I wrote in B minor called Moontide. On this one, really try to get the mood of the piece. It's definitely not fast. You need to take your time on this. Also, some technical issues here. In Moontide, we also have a concept called campanella, where you're getting a bell-like quality between strings, where you're holding down a finger, and then also alternating between fretted note and open strings. So a lot of that in this piece. Make sure that you play with the tips of the fingers. Also, you have a big shift on the third line, at the end of the third line. So make sure you take your time with that. You really don't need to play that in time so much. You can sort of express yourself there. When you get back to measure 12 there, you'll be back in the regular time. It's called a tempo. A tempo means that you're going back to the original tempo. There are some chords here that you'll need to make sure, and some shifts. The second from the last line, measure 18. Make sure that you shift up to 5th position. And you have this right there. Make sure these are good examples of where you really need to be on the tips of the fingers. Don't try to play this with your thumb up and doing this. All right, keep your arm down. All right. Then DS al coda, it goes back to the sign, which is the first full measure. The beginning measure is a pickup, like that. Then you go to the coda, go to measure 7, measure 8, and then it's to the coda. So I hope you enjoy Moontide.